He stands on the scarred plain and breathes slow. Claire came to the frontier world with a small relief team. She had kind hands and steady eyes. Fixed broken radios and lifted fallen beams, she listened more than she spoke. People liked her because she made fear smaller than the Earthship. Surveyor ran a tremor scan across the deep valley, and the valley answered with a long, low sound. Like a mountain-grown dust rose in gray waves from the cracked stone. A colossal shape lifted a queen beyond any measure the team knew. An ancient mother of a hive that slept under the crust. Moment of awakening was chaos. The colony alarm rang. Families rushed into shelters under orange light. Claire held a little girl named Lily by the hand and guided her to the door. Lily shook and would not let go of the hand. Claire promised she would come back. Scan had been too loud and too sudden, and it ran through the egg chambers. Like a harsh wind, one ring of pale eggs had crumpled. The queen rose not in calm but in rage and grief, her limbs like arches, her eyes like deep blue glass lakes that held storms. Smarko. The foreman shouted orders. Megan called for the shuttle. Nora dragged a cable spool to brace a failing wall. Everyone moved with tight jaws and quick feet. Claire stood at the edge of the valley floor and watched the queen orient to the sound of the alarms. Then the queen turned toward the shelters. The ground shook under each step. The old comes chief Faith pushed a headset into Claire's hands. She said, "There is a pattern in the low call of the queen." Faith had heard the pattern when she was young and worked on whale songs at a coast lab back on Earth. She said the queen was not mindless. She said the sound held pain and a demand to Anne's work. Claire felt something pull at her chest like a tide. She walked forward, while others pulled back. She raised both hands with open palms and kept her breath slow, and even she remembered a trick her grandmother used when a newborn cried in the middle of a small apartment in the city. Thundered outside. Count the breath's soft hum on the way out. Quiet and steady. Queen lowered her head. The air grew warm and dry, like sun on rust. Haze curled around the tall mandibles. Claire saw a fracture line of dull light running across the thick carapace over the heart. It pulsed with a tired Beata scout drone, zipped by and fired a flash pellet. The queen shrieked. Stone split. Swarmer shapes poured from vents and old lava tubes. Like a living shadow, River Megan yelled to pull Claire back. Claire did not move. She thought of Lily inside the shelter and of many families who did not have shuttles to fly away. She thought of the thin air and the long winter that waited above. This day running would not save them for long. She stepped to meet the moving shadow and knelt. She pressed her palms to the ground and felt the tremor rhythm of the queen. There was a cadence inside the rage, a 3-beat pattern and a fourth long. A Sheckler began to answer with her body. She swayed with the beat. She tapped the earth with the side of her hand. She breathed in 3 short draws and then 1 long release. She hummed on the release, no words, only shape and care in the sound. First wave of swarmers paused. They mirrored her sway, their barbed legs set like a choir in stillness. The queen stilled too and tilted the great head as if listening to a small river in the dark. Faith said through the headset that the old whale songs often carried maps and memory. Maybe the queen held memory inside. The low call, maybe it asked for a lost note. Claire looked at the broken ring of eggs near the crack in the valley floor. She felt heat rise behind her eyes. She did not speak. She shaped the feeling into the rhythm. Hear you? Her body said in breath and hum, and I know you lost something, and I know the sound that woke you was ours. We did not mean to break your future. We are sorry. We are Haresh Rose, and walked at a slow pace toward the cracked ring. The swarmers parted. Old shell dust rose and settled. Queen followed with steps that made the ground fold, and then remember its shape. Her eyes were storms, but they watched Claire without the hard glare of a hunter. Claire reached the broken eggs and kneeled again. She set her palms near the shards. She hummed the 3 short and 1 long. She placed the back of her hand to the ground, so the hum traveled through stone. She remembered a river bridge from her childhood. How the steel kept singing after the train went away. Sound could live inside matter for a while, maybe long enough. Faith spoke in a thin voice that wavered like old tape. She said to add a cradle note. She said to draw the hum down at the end like a soft slide. Claire did this for a breath. The valley felt like a room with a sleeping child. Queen leaned close. The heat was steady and dry. the mandibles folded and a long limb unfolded and touched the ground near. Claire's right hand, the limb tremored. In the same rhythm, the shelter lily pressed her ear to the door and whispered that the big mother was learning the song. Nora told her to step back and then said, "No, it is all right. You can listen, people." We're quiet behind the reinforced door above. The valley, a storm front, rolled in from the salt flats. Wind braided dust into slow spirals. The orange alarm light finally clicked off. Its silence felt like a held.
"Oh, breath."
"Really," said Marco, asked Faith if the shuttle should stand down. Faith said too. "Hold, but keep warm." Claire stayed by the broken ring as the queen lowered her vast body to the ground. The queen set one limb, crossed the eggs as if to shield what could not be saved. The tremor song shifted, the rage note softened, a new note rose. That sounded like rain on canvas. Claire listened and understood a little. The note was old. Law of the hive loss must be counted. The count must be held by one who heard and stayed only then may. The hive rest whispered with no words and kept the rhythm. She thought of the time she sat with her aunt in a hospital room during a long night. No one spoke. The room was full. Anyways, warmer shapes arranged themselves in rings around the queen. They set their legs in a pattern like the spokes of a wheel. Their bodies made a quiet wind with small motions through the headset. Faith told a story about a study of mothers and infants and the way heartbeats could align through touch and sound. She said humans do this without thinking, she said. Maybe that is why Claire felt the polars seemed to pass, yet the sun barely moved behind the dust. Time thickened, the way honey slows as it cools in a jar. Queen raised her head and sent a low line of sound toward the far ridge. The ridge opened like a door. A tall, narrow tunnel shone with faint blue. Faith gasped and said the hive was inviting Claire to walk the memory path. She warned that memory paths can close if the walker breaks the rhythm. Claire stood and walked. Megan wanted to go too, but the swarmers formed a soft wall. Claire alone could pass. Entered the tunnel. Cool air brushed her face like water. Blue light traced symbols she did not know yet, almost knew in her bones. The tunnel sloped down. The hum of the queen traveled along the walls. Claire answered with breath and taps. Came into a chamber where old shells rested in stacks like books. The shells were thin and held patterns like fingerprints. When she touched one, it rang with a tiny bell note inside the note. She felt a picture form, not with eyes, but with the place behind the eyes. She saw a long summer flood when the hive almost drowned. She saw a small young queen lead the swarm to high ground by singing through stone and water. She saw the young queen rise and take a mantle of crystal from a pillar and become the colossal mother of this age. Claire understood that the queen was not only a leader, she was living memory made flesh, and the broken eggs meant broken memory lines that would not be sung by the next brood. Claire set both hands to the shell stacks and sent the cradle note again and again. She thought of every child she knew. She thought of Lily. She thought of her grandmother and the small apartment and the way a city can feel like a storm and a shelter at the same time. The chamber shook. A crack ran along the floor and stopped at Claire's feet and did not cross. She stood still, and the crack waited and then closed like a healed cut. Walked back up the tunnel to the Valeth. Queen waited with eyes like calm lakes after rain. Claire knew the hive wanted an answer of repair, not only a song of sorrow. She looked at the broken ring and at the warm limb laid over it. She thought about power and kindness and the work between them. She called to the colony with a wave of her arms and a wide, slow gesture that meant bring the fabric rigs and the biopaste and the thermal blankets. Marco read the gesture and sent teams. Workers came with quiet steps and open faces. They moved in time with the 3 short and 1 long. They set braces and gentle forms around the cracked nests. They spread paste that cooled and then warmed as it set. They sewed a wide cover of breathable fabric and tucked it like a soft-hilled. Queen watched and kept the tremor song steady. When a brace slipped, a swarmer eased it into place with careful feet no one made a sharp sound. No one ran. Faith told Claire that the count was changing. The lost note was still there, but now it carried a companion note of making. She said the hive was beginning to hold a new story. Night edged the sky with purple, and then deep blue stars came like small cold fires. The storm front fell away, and the air cleared. Claire sat near the warm limb and rested her back against a stone. She ate a bar and shared another bar with a swarmer that only sniffed and did not eat. She laughed without sound, and the swarmer pressed. Got its head to the ground, and a small bolily slipped from the shelter and came with Nora at her. Side Claire waved them to keep the slow step. Lily carried a small wind chime made from old copod near. The fabric hillwind touched it, and a thin, sweet sound came.